This podcast is sponsored by www.gambleriskfree.com, teaching you how to make guaranteed profit from bookies. Any free bet you get teaches you how to turn it into real withdrawable cash. They also find free bets for you so you don't have to do any work. Take a look at their website and enter the promo code Gooner Ramble when joining. GambleRiskFree.com.
Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. Your host Giles, and joining me this evening is the veritable Clive. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I am good.
Good man.
How are you? You well?
Yeah, not too bad. Went to the EFL Cup game with Mark and Chris and Andrew and that lot, and entertaining nights football, let's say. And on that basis, we are doing the first part of our podcast, which is a look at the younger players, the fringe players, the periphery players that might be coming through, and those who might sadly not make it. And that's why we're here tonight. So, Clive, I know you must have watched the game or saw bits of the game.
I saw the whole game.
Good man. So, who stood out for you in that game last night against Reading?
Well, I said before that the group of youngsters that we've got at the moment are really quite exciting, and one of the reasons that I really like them is their physicality, and we've seen them in some of the Champions League games, we've seen them in the EFL Cup, and a lot of these young ones, they're not like the previous youngsters, a little bit small and light. They're ready physically, and so last night we saw Holding, we saw Maitland-Niles. We can still class Iwobi there, even though he's in our first 11. And we saw Reine-Adelaide, and all of them really are, they've got physicality and they look like they've got a presence on the pitch. Rob Holding's an interesting one, right? Because obviously he's not one of our academy, but he's coming in £2 million from Bolton. And one of the other sports I like is basketball, right? And I'm sure you've heard of Tim Duncan, right? San Antonio Spurs, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great quote from Popovich, the coach at San Antonio. He sort of says, when we do defense, we always work around Tim Duncan. We all know where he is, and we take our position from him. And I listened to him, and when I was watching Rob Holding last night, I thought, what is it about this kid that really stands out? When he first came in, he played right centre half. I watched him play on the 21s in the summer in that Toulon tournament with Chambers, and he played left centre half. He's played right and left side for us. Basically, Gabriel's a senior centre-half, but he is the one that stayed on the right and Holding went to the left, which means Holding's comfortable. He doesn't mind where he plays, right? So, and he has that sort of Mertesacker type stature that says, I'm the lead defender and you guys take your position from me. When I step in, you step back. And I'll step back and read the game when I'm ready. And for someone that's 20 years of age, that is like pretty amazing, considering he's come from the Championship straight into the Premiership games. I know Liverpool came a little bit soon for him as a collective, but he didn't disgrace himself. I mean, between him and Chambers, he was the better player on the day. And he's had gaps in his games, and he's come in, he's looked fit, he's looked fresh. He knows when to step forward. He's got a bit of pace. He's 6'2". He's got a bit of physicality about him. He reads it well in the air. He's very smooth on the ball. And I've often, you can't help but compare him to Chambers. And you ask yourself, wow, this guy has really got something. And then looking online last night, I'm not the only one that thinks that, right? Everyone was raving about his performance. And I think sometimes with centre-backs, they're just something about how they make you feel. And he just makes you feel comfortable when he's stepping into confrontation. You don't panic. He makes the right decisions under pressure. And when he has to stretch physically, he can do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what Arsenal did to steal him for £2 million. They must have pictures of somebody, right? So because that is amazing, and he just continues to wow people, really.
I tell you what I like about it. You mentioned that he played left side. I think in the first 3 games he played right side alongside Chambers, Mustafi, and I think because, but last night he played left-sided centre-back, and as you said, he looked equally as comfortable as on the right. So he's dependable. And I'm just wondering, even if we're looking at him as now possibly, I mean, this might be a stretch, but maybe possibly being third choice. Because why is Gabriel having to shift to right? When I remember last season, you spoke about maybe swapping Cos and Gabs.
Yeah. Because
Cos was playing right, and he was being affected by playing right, and Gabs was playing on the left because that was more of his natural position. If last night you couldn't tell who was the senior defender out of the two, you wouldn't know who'd had 4 or 5 years experience of playing in the top league. If you looked at them both,
they both looked good, didn't they, G? They both looked very good. I thought Gabriel looked very pacey. He looked very quick. He looked Koscielny quick on the recovery. I mean, he looks, he's 25. He's got a lot of growing still to do. He's still, not even middle aged for a
He's still quite young.
He looks very fast, and I'm pace gives me comfort. Right? I'm never quite comfortable with Mertesacker for all his class and for all his quality and experience. You've heard me quote Mertesacker bingo. I just don't like it. I don't like to know that one of my central defenders can't run. That's just a personal thing, right? And this is just personal views on players, but Rob Holding, I feel comfortable with. Gabriel, I feel comfortable with. He looked calmer in possession last night, not so erratic. And they look very, very good together. You're looking at the two of them, you're thinking, we have got 4 wonderful centre halves, and we've got one away that's playing quite well at Middlesbrough, and he's improving as well. So
good to hear.
When you think about that, we've got a great future ahead defensively, that's for sure.
Another player that I was glad to see was Jeff Reine-Adelaide. Now, he was the lineup seemed to suggest he was positioned at number 10.
Yeah.
But he's found himself, saw him quite often out on the left-hand side. I suppose that whole kind of midfield behind Lucas was there was quite a lot of moving parts. It was very fluid, apart from, say, probably El Nene and AMN, Maitland-Niles. The others were very fluid in their motion. What did you make of Jeff's game? Because he wasn't as flashy. He didn't have those sparkly moments that we've seen. Yeah. We saw against Wolfsburg in the Emirates Cup, for instance. But what did you make of his game?
So when the lineup came out, I thought he was positioned number 10, just like you, right? But he did play left, and I was a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see him in the 10 because I watched a few of the youth games. He moves around like all the players do, but one of the games I did see where he was very impressive was actually one of the midfield too, and when he's in the middle, he's got the option to go either way, and he sort of steps people, a bit Diaby style, and he drives away. And I really like that. So I was really hopeful he's going to be central. I felt last night, receiving the ball on the left, people like Gnabry can do it, and Iwobi can do it. Just how your body preparation is before you receive the ball to give you the best chance to step off the spot initially. I thought it restricted him creatively a little bit, and we didn't see him sparkle. But because obviously there was an exercise to see Iwobi in a 10 position, which Wenger's spoken about today, and Iwobi has got that ability, no doubt about it, to play number 10. If I look at you try and look at someone who's like 6'2" and he's 18. He's been with us a couple of years now. He came over with that guy, is it Yanis Fortune from Lons?
That's right.
He's injured at the moment, so we're not seeing much of him. And both of them were stars in the France under-17, I think, European Cup team. And basically, I see his future. I mean, it's all opinions, right? But I see his future as definitely a one of the midfield two, and in that El Neni position, driving forward. Definitely when he gets a little bit older. But Wenger loves to score people on wide lefters, and he's done it for he's done it for 20 years, right? So, and he can definitely play either side wide, but just because of his stature, his height, he's quite tall for his age. He's only gonna get stronger. His growing's not finished. I do see him playing as a central player rather than be wide. Wide and rangy and lack a little bit of agility as he gets older. And I really like him. Again, I think we spent £3 million on the pair of those French boys. So again, considering what he's going to be like, it looks like shrewd business to me. And I see him, being in our first team squad regularly. He's already on the bench last Saturday. he's going to be around for a while. I've got no issues with him.
Indeed. Iwobi, as you said, number 10, really dictated most of the tempo of our game, I would say. Looks so confident, always looking for the ball, always telling people where he is. Once he gets on that ball, that radius around him, once the ball enters that zone, he comes alive, and he's always looking for, like, his body position is correct to receive the ball, like you say, give and goes, lending. He's all over the place. I mean, there's not really much more that you can say about him that we haven't said already about the lad. And as Wenger said, as you said, he's destined for the number 10 position. I would just like to see him use that 360 vision that he has going forward to be defensively aware going back.
Yeah, I think there's obviously, the Arsenal fans they're very smart, right? Football fans today are very smart, and we're watching what Iwobi's doing out left, and we're watching Monreal get rinsed at left back, and we're looking at him, and we're sort of seeing him flagging a bit. He's a little bit tired. I was sort of surprised to see him play last night, which tells me there was an exercise to watch him at number 10 for sure. When I look at him, I have the same emotions, right? I look at him standing in on the pitch, and he looks like an ugly footballer. His shorts look too big. His socks are rolled down. He does not have an athletic run. His feet are splayed, and you're thinking, is that it? Mm. And then the ball comes, and he turns into some sort of ballerina. The moment the ball's at his feet, everything's perfect. Everything looks good. He's just got absolute layers of passes. He's got great pace of pass. He's got expression on his passing, and he's got decision making. And then when he goes into contact with him, he can move people away. He doesn't get pushed off the ball, and he can take it back foot off both feet. It's just incredible, the difference between watching him off the ball and watching him on the ball. And that's probably why Wenger's looking at him as a 10, because they want to get him on the ball more. And what we're doing as fans is that we are judging him on the ball. Yes, we know we've got something special for his age, without a doubt. But off the ball, we're a little bit concerned about him, right? So I do think he needs to be managed very, very carefully. Just make sure that freshness doesn't go from his game, because we start to see the ugly side more, and we start to criticise the ugly side of the ball. But on the ball, he's wonderful. And
what's his ceiling? What do you think his ceiling is?
You know what? I don't know, because think about the goals he scored. He scored one goal at Everton last year where he ran away from central defenders. I mean, where does that come from?
Yeah.
And then slotted it. He scored goals at the back stick. He scored goals from the centre of the box. He scored goals from the edge of the box. He set up some of our best goals. I mean, the Chelsea game, he was tremendous. Where is his ceiling? He's definitely, I mean, it is quite, I'm just so glad he's not playing for England in a strange way, because can you imagine if he was playing for England?
The hype.
The hype would be just, we wouldn't see the same person. And in some ways, when he originally went to play for Nigeria, I support, I'd always want him to play for England. But I thought about it in retrospect and thought, just imagine that now. If he was English, it would just be unbearable. The hype would be around him, and it could destroy him.
You know what? Just as a small aside, I obviously support Nigeria from Nigeria heritage, and what I like about what's going on now is he's not the only beacon. We've got the Iheanacho brothers at Man City. Yep. You've got Musa. You've got a sort of a clique of 4 or 5 of them where they all share the light. So we don't have that sort of one shining light that you do in England with the England players, where you have that one player of the generation and he's the man, and everything kind of goes for him. If it falls, it's like he's vilified. And that's what I like about. I mean, Nigeria are a very passionate footballing nation, but we've got a crux of players there. We've got Nakwali as well. We've got the guy that didn't come to Arsenal that went to Germany. So there's a few players in that group that share that limelight, and so the burden's not all on Iwobi.
Yeah, exactly. And and they seem to enjoy playing for Nigeria as well, right? And I think they enjoy being out that limelight. And I also, with my Arsenal head on, we're watching what's happening to Rashford right now. He's being mismanaged by Mourinho, being played as an auxiliary fullback, right? And it's terrible, right? Because that kid is very, very good. And I just love the way Wenger manages these guys. He moves them around, he gives them opportunities, and he plays them. He plays them regardless of his own reputation. Sometimes he doesn't care about himself, and he just gives them a chance. And it's but this group, I feel more confident than any other. They're going to repay him back, and you can see it when you watch them. You just don't feel that they are in any way below the standard. In fact, you asked the question, where is his ceiling? We're talking about a 20-year-old running our game for number 10. I mean, just think about that. It's incredible, really.
Indeed. One player that really intrigued me, Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Now, when his name was mentioned as being in the squad for the League Cup, people said, he's going to play right back. A few people, I think maybe you and a couple of others said, no, I think he actually might play midfield. I think Wenger confirmed his position in midfield.
Yeah.
I don't know where he started off his career. I think he might have started off as a striker or a winger. I'm not sure. He went to Ipswich Town, had what looked to be a really good start, and then obviously off-field problems with his parents and Mick McCarthy. Yeah. He mentioned in his post-match interview last night that it was pretty hard out there with Ipswich. He had a difficult time, but it's sort of like built him. It's made him the player that he is now. He's come back home. He's taken up midfield positions. But I think there's. You mentioned layers, and I think there are layers to his game. When you've got a player that can play right back, right wing, both the central midfield positions, that tells me that's a player that's adaptable, has some kind of football intelligence, and we just need to hone it. There's certain things, he was a bit erratic with distribution last night, and after a while he started to, I think him and a few of the other youngsters started to let the game go to there, decided to do a few flicks and tricks, but I think there might be something in this boy where we can actually develop him as Wenger said, the number 2, the understudy to Coquelin. What do you think?
This is one guy I've watched a lot, and I followed him a lot, and I followed him since the time when his mum sort of had a row with Dick Law, right? And,
slapped him up, apparently.
Right? And so if you know anything about young players, if that happens in an academy, if you're not good, you go.
Wow, yeah.
You're gone. You don't see nothing, mate. You're just gone. And there's been things in the past with Jay Bothroyd, they're just gone. Because Ben, at the time the club didn't think they were good enough. They just palmed away, right? So the fact the clubs kept him, and there were rumours in the club that this guy's really special, right? So they kept him, sent him out on loan. He played right side midfield in a 4 last year for Ipswich. Worked very, very hard, started very, very well. And then he dropped out of the team. His mum had a little chat, left a voicemail from Mick McCarthy, which went down well, hit the papers. Strike 2, Mum. Cheers, thanks a lot. And my mates are not really taking the mickey out of me, but so. And then to me, he was always going to be. He started as a right winger. He had played a couple of games up front, but central midfield was, in a lot of the sort of youth Champions League games, he did play in centre midfield. He's played number 10 for the England youth teams. To me, he's a central player with legs. And again, look at his shoulders. I don't know if you saw him live, right? He's got square shoulders.
Yeah,
he's still slight, but you can see the frame is there.
The frame is there, yeah.
The frame is there to develop upon. You could put a ruler to his shoulders. Bam, they're just there, And and then you think about his, again, you've asked the word, his ceiling. His ceiling physically has only just been tapped into, and because he's played out wide, when he receives the ball central, he's not embarrassed by the ball. He can move it. He can step people. He can track people. He's got pace. He's got pace across the central areas. By playing right back, the only reason you can play right back is if you're quick in wide spaces. He can do that as well. He's good one-on-one. He's progressive. Wow, right? You just look at him and you think, again, he's got all the attributes to develop as an Arsenal-type footballer. He's not one we brought in. He's been at the club since he was 9 years of age, so he'd actually been schooled all the way through. And I thought he might have gone out alone again this year, but he was kept behind. And Well, you saw him live last night. I mean, you can see why he was kept behind. Right?
Yeah.
So, again, it comes back. As soon as you start talking about these players, you think, well, how are they going to fit in? What's their pathway? Are they going to have to go on loan again next year? Because, all the first 11, 12, 14, they're all playing so well, right? So, but I look at him and think, you're going to be an Arsenal first team player. Mick McCarthy said it within a month. He said, this boy is going to play for Arsenal's first team, and when he gets in, he won't come out. And I thought that was interesting. He was only 17 at the time. Then he just one to start to follow. So there is an erraticness about him. There has been a few rumours of attitude problems in the past, but I don't see anything like that now. I just see a player with a high ceiling, looks like an Arsenal player, physically really, really good. And and he's English as well, right? So so one day the hype will get him, hopefully. But yeah, if I look around I look at the Chelsea youngsters, and they've got a player in centre mid. They got a kid called Casey Palmer that's doing very, very well. Yeah. They've got Lewis Baker. Yeah, they've got Lewis Baker's another central midfield player, a little bit older, very 2-footed, very technical. And he's our centre mid that's come through. He's our version of that, and he's doing very well.
What do you think of Wenger's prophecy that he's understudy? He could well be understudy to Coquelin. I mean, it's very specific. The way that Wenger likes his players to engage now, it seems, in midfield, likes his midfield to press up, engage higher up the field. So I wouldn't imagine I'd see this guy as an orthodox DM.
Yeah,
I see him as more of a front-footed, more of aggressive, sort of win the ball back, and spray it and whatnot. And I think, this is very early days, and I'm only going off of what I saw at the England under-21s when he was playing for Southgate in the summer, and a few bits and pieces I've seen here. I think technically it could be better than Coquelin.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because like you say, he's played on the wing.
Different, I suppose.
Yeah. He's played on the wing, so he's got the quick feet. He's not embarrassed by it. He probably sees a picture where Coquelin is a little bit less. I mean, I read an article today, and it said that the Coquelin's deficiency is, when he's in those spaces, those half spaces up, towards the top end of the field, the defense kind of leave him alone because he's a decoy. He's not somebody who's going to hurt you in those half spaces as much. I wonder if Maitland-Niles can hurt people in that area of the park when he's in those positions. It's early days, and it's just really me being very speculative. Yeah. So I'm really interested and intrigued by this boy, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, me too. And you know what? I don't think we have another Coquelin in this squad. And the way he plays, the way he causes stress to other teams, the way he unpicks them by taking the ball away from them when they least expect it. Right. So we definitely don't have that type of players. We have players who are very good sort of on the ball, but not so much off it defensively that way. And Coquelin, my views on him. I think he's vital to how we play for the majority of our games, not all of them. So the thing about Maitland-Niles is because he's been a forward-thinking, attacking player as a youth. When he gets to the edge of the area, he has the psychology to say, "I want to take a shot." I'm not looking for a quick pass. I've got the opportunity to beat someone and shoot. He's not embarrassed in the area. He makes runs off the back of people. But it's also the education at right back is actually very, very smart move by Wenger, actually, because again that just brushes up his sort of defensive attributes, and then you bring that into the centre. You got somebody that's quick, that's quite agile, 1-on-1. He knows how to defend the space, cover the space, but also when he's in the top third, he's looking for end product. He's not a cute passer like Jeffrey Adelaide or Iwobi is. But he brings something else, right? So yeah, it is. I'm always a positive about these things, but if you look at it closely, I mean, you've seen them for yourself, right? And they are imposing athletes that play the Arsenal way, and that is just great to see.
Zellerland came on later as well as Chris Willock for little cameos. Everyone knows about Willock, what everyone's very excited. I know you're extremely excited about that lad. So I think it's a bit before his time at the moment. I think, is he 17, 18, just turned 18 or so? Is that right?
Yeah, he looks physically 18 months behind the others.
Yeah.
And but when he plays, he just makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So it's great.
My concern with Zelalem is he doesn't seem to have grown physically. He doesn't seem to have developed at the rate that you say. Like Willock looked different 18 months ago than to what he is now. You can see the growth. You can see the growth in Reine-Adelaide, but Zelalem still looks malnourished, if that's a phrase I can use. He doesn't seem to have sort of the upper body strength is there. He's got sticks. He's got legs for sticks, sticks for legs. Very good on the ball. You can tell technically, football brain A1.
Yeah,
but I don't know if he's strong enough to succeed here. I'm still.
I have the one side of me thinks exactly the same as you. Like, because one of the other teams I do support, I do watch Glasgow Rangers, and so I do watch their results, and I watched them a lot last year. And he was obviously out on loan there. And he had some great moments. The standard's not high, right? We're talking last year, we're talking League One sort of standard. But strength-wise, physicality-wise, it's a great place to sort of toughen up, right? So technically, he's as smooth as silk. Right? Even last night when he came on, I felt some of our decision-making was a little bit iffy towards the end of the game as we were sort of playing about a bit. When he came on with something to prove, he's really got the old satellite dish on, isn't he? He turns the right way every time. He does remind me a lot of the way he plays football, a lot of Cesc Fabregas when he was like 17.
Yes.
The way he sort of, strokes the ball, wants the ball, lends the ball. He's very much that type of player.
Yeah.
But Cec's role changed. He played number 10 at times. He was deep at times in the 2. And he really made his name was how he finished. He scored a lot of goals. I think he's got a bit to do still in my mind, and I think his development, obviously physically, is behind the others, and so it'd be interesting to see what happens to him. I think he would need to go out again and play man's football, stay a year at Arsenal, make sure you don't get yourself injured, let your growing happen, because he's quite tall, he's just very slim, and he's very light, and then hopefully maybe next year he gets to a good loan that plays the right style of football so he can express himself. Warburton at Rangers definitely played a passing game last year. He had like a guy called Gary Mackay in centre midfield, Andy Halliday in centre midfield. They were very, very young, and they just passed the ball. They passed, which really suited him. They've gone up this year, and they're a little bit more Akhil. They've got Nico Cranchar in playing the ZLM role. And so basically, they've just taken him away from there. I'd like to see him go to a good side that plays good football, so he can still keep his passing structure, but hopefully gives his time for his body to develop so we can really judge him. I think it's a bit early to... I'm with you, G, exactly. I judge him exactly the same way. I just don't want to say that's his plateau, because you never know. You're never sure how he's going to physically go on from here. Martinez looks steady in goal, doesn't he? He looks like somebody that we should we might see in another 5 or 6 years' time take the reins between the sticks. I mean, he seems to have all the competencies from what I can tell. Maybe I don't know about his kicking. Maybe could improve a little bit, but positioning, agility wise, command of area. Well, if you think but he's that Peter Cech style goalkeeper. He's very tall. I think about 6'5", is like that. He's very tall. Again, it gives you a feeling of security there. Our goalkeeper set, we've got the experienced guy that's bringing everyone through. We've got Ospino, I think, it's almost like a European goalkeeper. To see him in the Champions League when there's not so many crosses coming in and lots of, sweeping to do, he's perfect for that. And then we got this young keeper that, although he's young, he's got great stature to him. And again, he doesn't make you feel as though there's anything he's going to throw that in, throw one in. But actually, there was a time when he wasn't so secure. So, goalkeeper development does take time. Distribution, you often find with some of the taller goalkeepers, they don't always get their feet are not so sharp. That's the byproduct of having somebody very, very tall. I've said before that for every 10 touches a goalkeeper has, I reckon 9's with your feet. So it's absolutely critical to the modern game. So that's something that they'll develop all the time. It's a big part of goalkeeper drills now. So, but I liked him. I mean, the saves he made, you expect him to make them, but he made them very, very well. You know, he looked very, very good. And so it's the best I've seen him, really. I mean, this year, I thought Ospina would play both cups. I was a little bit concerned. Yeah, I was a bit concerned when he went to find. Oh, okay, but actually he played really well there. He played really well last night. So interested to see what they do in the FA Cup this year. Which goalkeeper they're going to play? Be interested.
Jenks had a good, solid game at right back, and Gibbs as well. Do you see Gibbs coming in now on Saturday?
Yeah,
or Monreal.
Jenks should just play with a scarf and rattle on, right? Because basically, you can see it just oozing out of him. Right?
Yeah, he loves the Arsenal, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. But if you think about, he's a great athlete, and the way, obviously Bellerin is supreme, but we've got used to that hard-running fullback that's quite fast. I don't think we could, work with a Callum Chambers out there again, or a centre half come right back who's standing in his hole, not being mobile. We've got used to mobile fullbacks, and I was really pleased to see him do so well, because I'm not a fan of Debussy. I don't like his attitude, and I don't like how he plays. I don't think he's mobile enough, and I think he takes too many risks as a defender because he's not very quick, so he steps up on people too much. He gambles too much, and so I think if there's a byproduct of seeing Jenkinson play last night, I'm hoping that gives us the opportunity to sell Debussy in January and get some money in the coffers, right, and get this sorted out. And I hope Jenkinson can. When I watch him, if you watch him closely, when he done his knee, what he does when he's running back with people, he gets caught up with people. He gets tangled into their legs. So his recovery run angles, they just need to be a bit smarter. He's very, very quick. He hasn't got to panic. So when people are going behind him, he sort of panics. Yeah. And he gets close and he gets tangled up, and these people just dive. Right? They just dive. And that's how he done his cruciate. He done his cruciate exactly the same way. I saw it last night a couple of times. He's running back. Yeah. He's really quick. But he just runs back and he just goes, and he just piles into
put the brakes on a little bit,
the brakes on. Don't worry, they're not going to run away from you. You're 6
You're that
foot
quick,
You run like the wind, right? So just calm down and just let it develop, right? But he's so keen to play and do well that sometimes he gets involved in contact he just need to get involved with. You can see him giving away penalties and killer free kicks, can't you, right? But
he's done it all his career.
Yeah, so he just needs to calm down. But I just hope, he can gets another contract and stays. Yeah, because
I think there's a good right back in him. When he remember he had that run of 3 years ago. Yeah, when he came in at right back, he started slowly, but once he got into it, he was solid. He was very solid.
Munich. I think his match at Bayern Munich away, right? So there is a player in there. He's had 18 months at West Ham, I think, and he's been out since January, February. Yeah, he comes out. He's had one under-23 game on a Friday night, and then he goes out and does that full 90 minutes, bang, full throttle. It's unbelievable, right? So I've just seen Vincent Kompany come off at half time. They're easing him back. Jenks is back. 90 minutes. Let's have it, right? So I think with Gibbs, he's looking very smooth. I mean, he played that game last night jogging, didn't he, really? Yeah. He was just jogging through it. He's literally saying to this level is not me, but I'm going to jog through it, do all the right things, move the ball quickly, let other people shine. And he did that at half pace, and he did it very, very well. Yeah. I think with Gibbs, when I watch him, I think where Nacho is better than him is in what I call short combinations. So short combinations, he does it. He really builds on that left-hand side. He doesn't dash past. I think that's a good balance. The fullback balance with him and Bellerin is great, because Bellerin will underlap and overlap, but he's got the ability to have the recovery runs and get back. So I quite like the fact that left-back doesn't go to the corner flag as well. And Gibbs has been doing that. So when I watch him play a little bit more reserved, I think that's important to the balance. He's a very good athlete, and I was pleased he played against Ludogorets because they were very, very quick. And he's making less mistakes. Now, again, defensively, there isn't much between them. He's quicker. He gives a bit of security. He's calmer. He's calming down. I tell you what, if he plays on Saturday, there'd be nobody saying he doesn't deserve it. You know, you got to say to yourself, he has been behind Monreal for a while. He has not said a single word, and when he comes in, it looks as though he's been playing all of the time. I mean, I just don't know how he's so fit for the amount of football that he's played. Yeah, and that tells me that off the pitch, he's living the right life.
Right life, yeah.
He's doing the right training. Yeah, and that's why he's still at the club, right? Because he so cares about his profession. So yeah, it's all good.
Let's look at the players that weren't in the squad yesterday. I mean, who would you say is coming up through the academies that, you know, are ones to watch?
Well, obviously, everyone knows about Chris Willock. He's the Neymar as such, right? And see how he develops. There's a right back. My son's a fullback, so I always look at fullbacks. And there's a young right back called Chiori Johnson that's quite sharp. He had a bit of time out injured. I think he'd done a bad knee injury. He was out for a year, so we didn't see much of him for a little while. But he's now playing more games, and he looks quite sharp. I quite like him. I always show him to my son to say, that's how you do it, mate. And there's a centre forward, a young centre forward. I never get his name right. His name's Eddie
Nketiah.
Nketiah, thank you. And I think he is now bursting through the age ranges, right? So I watched him play Ludogorets the other week. I watched him against PSG. I think that was his debut for the under-23s. I mean, I think he's only 17. So he's bursting through the under-18 age group, and he's just going forward. So the other week against Ludogorets, they played Steffi Mavidi, who's normally our centre forward at that level. They played him with Nketiah. Thank you. And Nketiah was leading the line, and Steffi was playing in behind him, right? So this, to me, he looks like Ian Wright, Will Todd like. Very smooth on the eye, very smart decision in the box. He's a pure goal scorer. And, he's developing physically as well. He's growing slowly. And, so he is the one that it may be in a year's time we're going to say, wow, where did he come from? To me, I think he's looks a very special talent. The reason why I really took notice of him is how he's going through the age group so fast. I mean, he's just going through, and it won't be long before he's going to be our under-23s main forward. Give it a few months, and let's see where he is. Interesting. Anybody else that comes to mind? How's Tafari Moore doing in the Eredivisie? I haven't seen much of that, actually. And again, I've got a friend who's an agent to some of the Chelsea youngsters, so I sort of get to know more about what the boys at Peter Sarden are doing. I haven't seen much of Tafari Moore out there. I know they've been. Again, he's somebody that primarily was a right back at Arsenal, but Arsenal have struggled for left backs. And he's been swapped a lot of the times, and they do that sometimes with fullback as part of their development. They want to be out on the other side, receive the ball on both feet, and play out both sides. But he spent a lot of time at left back. He's even played for England a lot at left back as well. So he is a dual fullback really. Again, when he was 16, he looked a lot more powerful compared to his his peers. Yeah, he did. But now he's not looking as powerful. Again, it's just they caught up with him or something. Yeah, they've caught up with him a little bit, right? So I haven't seen him for a few months, but he's not looking as powerful. And when you get to this sort of age group, how you physically develop between sort of 15, 16 and 18, 19. Sometimes in lap of the gods, right? You get people like Stefan Mabidi, who's like 6'2" already, and he's a giant, he's fully formed. And then you get Eddie Nketiah that's not so fully formed. But when he gets to that level, if he does grow, then actually what could he be like, right? So sometimes the physical aspects of certain things, this is the period where it's crucial to see how they develop. And then the final piece is mentally how they play under pressure, and that gets ramped up with first team training and then obviously key matches like last night. If you think about last night against Reading, that's a huge moment for people like Jenkinson for contracts, for Maitland-Niles. What are you going to be? You trained with the first team for a while now, and this is your moment to shine. And he's got to do it plus 50,000 people, right? So, and you have to do it. And people don't recognise that the pressure on opportunities are very finite. He knows that's his one game, and he has to produce. And I'm always pleased when they actually do produce, because it means a lot it means a lot to me to see the pathways created to play. But then when people take those chances, I think it's great.
Good stuff. It's been a good old chat this evening. Lots to for the listeners to mull over, and hopefully, Clive's giving you a lot of food for thought. Players that we should be looking out for. For me, I'm really looking forward to seeing how someone like Maitland-Niles develops in this position. Just briefly, Iwobi played 90 minutes. He played the full game.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, are we going to be rotating him? Do you think he might see bench duty on Saturday just to give him a little bit of a breather, and seeing someone maybe play Oxlade-Chamberlain on the left with Theo on the right, or Perez if he makes it back? I mean, how do you see that? Or do you think he played him 90 minutes, see that he can play the full game, and then he's going to put him back in straight for the Sunderland game on Saturday?
Well, you can't tell with Wenger, but I think the Ox will start. I just got a feeling he'll start. I mean, I went to the game on Saturday. I thought Iwobi was just a little bit off, and I thought he was, again, it wasn't as high a standard last night, but I thought he was he did as well as what we expected, what he needed to do. But just my sort of paternal side, why don't we can give him a break? There's no need to push him. There is no need to flog him. He played a lot of games last year. We've got, Oxlade-Chamberlain has worked very hard to get some
confidence as well.
Got some confidence, got some end product to his game now. He seems more focused. I've never heard a manager talk so positively about him. He's always said he's had the attributes, but he's also then criticised him for not getting those attributes out, right? And then criticised his mentality, that he cares too much, etc. But right now, he's producing, and he's on all the last few games he's done well. So again, if you're him, it's interesting, that left side. That left side's been a huge strength last season with Sanchez and Monreal. We never worried about left side at all. We worried about the right side channel with when Mertesacker was there. Maybe we let a bit when he was exposed, and Theo was a little bit off. We worried about Ramsey playing out there. This season, the right side is like unbelievable, and now we're worrying about the left side. And we could see a new left side at the weekend, and it's interesting that they both seem to have matured, and you always hear me talk about speed. I like the fact they're quick. I like the fact they're mobile, and if they can mature in possession and decision making, that left side, that could be our left side for a little while, So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Wenger does on Saturday. If he plays Gibbs and Oxlade-Chamberlain, I don't think anyone can say they haven't deserved it.
Indeed. Good stuff, Clive. Good speaking to you, mate. See you again soon. All right?
Yes, no doubt you will. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. That's the end of part one. Hello again, and welcome to part two of tonight's Gooner Ramble podcast. And tonight we've got regular Akhil. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yep, very good, thank you.
Good, and joining us, very special guest. Clad in his leather pants, we have got Mr. Angry of N5, Phil Wall. How you doing, mate?
Hello, Giles. I'm well.
Yeah,
trust me, there were one hell of a leather pants the way he rocked up to the AGM, and everyone's in sort of suits.
I should point out for those who don't know that I do ride a motorbike, and that is why I wear leather trousers. So I'm not Peter Stringfellow.
I would stick to the tube, mate. Seriously, if it affects your fashion sense that much, stick to the tube, mate.
Right. So you both were there.
Yeah.
Phil, you wrote a blog. Actually, was there as exec. Both of you were there as exec. Tell me, what are the biggest things that came out? What are the biggest things that came out of the AGM yesterday?
Well,
Monday.
The big change this year from the last couple of years is that Stan Kroenke has not taken his £3 million for unspecified services that his company provides to Arsenal. So, because of that, the mood was better than the last couple of years. So it was a generally calm meeting. There were fewer people than there used to be because there are fewer shareholders who can be bothered to go along and argue with the board or talk to the board. But in general, if Arsenal are top of the league, then Arsene is going to get an easy ride. And if the board behave themselves and allow Arsene to spend money, which is the big thing that most people want the board to do, and that's clearly happened this summer. It seems to have had a reasonable effect on the team so far. Stan didn't take his 3 million, so everything reasonably fine. It was not a big news story this year, really.
Akhil's not with us.
No, he is. He is. I was just pouring my water. Sorry. I totally agree with that. I think what you saw this year, and I think it's a positive, is the issues that were asked about were relatively small and minor compared to some of the issues we've kind of asked about before. Usually these sort of things are about frustration around not spending money in the transfer windows. It's about maybe not having a balanced squad. It's about, the £3 million sort of consultation fee. It's about sort of underperformance as well and all that sort of stuff. But I think, there's an acceptance here that actually we have spent money. We've spent the best part of 100 million. We haven't lost players. I think that was something Ivan Gazidis was keen to point out, that there was only I think 2 million worth of kind of outgoings during
big drop,
the
isn't
summer. Yeah, exactly. So we're not selling. We're buying. We're buying global stars, which Ivan Gazidis also mentioned, and the owner didn't take his 3 million. So it kind of was, and the team's doing well, of course, as Phil said. So it's kind of, people were a lot happier. There was no real tension in the room. I think maybe Wenger's 20 years as well had a little part to play, because I think people, did want to sort of appreciate it. I think people, there was I'm sure everyone knows now, but there was basically a picture frame with Arsene Wenger's face with all the players he's kind of played over his 20 years. It was given by Stan Kroenke and Sir Chips. I think what we did take from it, if you didn't already know, was Stan Kroenke is a very, very bad public speaker. He literally had the mic by his waist. He was talking, he didn't even sort of put the mic up. He was kind of mumbling a little bit, which he does, but it wasn't very clear at times. I think the sound tech guys had to put the volume up because you did feel it going up a little bit. But I mean, I think he's silent Stan for a reason. I think he's not a public speaker, and I'm not that's by no means me giving him an excuse not to speak and not to meet fans. I think he should be more engaged, but it certainly answers that he's really not a public speaker, because this was on a topic that wasn't controversial as well. So,
do you think it's a case of?
I think it was obvious that Stan didn't really want to bother doing that, but he sort of seemed to feel obliged to stand out the front, basically reading the words off a bit of paper, congratulating Arsene on his 20 years. Handing over a picture to him, posing for a photograph. But as Akhil says, he was standing with the microphone down by his side, mumbling away, which is odd because, recently, or not that long ago anyway, a few months ago, he was at the sports conference in the States.
Exactly.
He was talking quite openly there, and, and apparently without the same sort of hesitation or disdain for the proceedings. Clearly he wanted to be there, and he doesn't particularly want to be at an annual general meeting of Arsenal where shareholders are going to have a go at him, potentially, because he doesn't have that with his other companies. He is the sole owner of all his other companies. He doesn't have to answer to anybody. He doesn't have any other shareholders interfering. Actually, there's the other interesting part of the meeting really was when Stan had to be re-elected to the board, which all the directors have to be re-elected every 3 years, standard corporate practice. So when that resolution came up, there were quite a few hands went up not to re-elect Stan, and Sir Chips had to say, we're going to have another poll there, but I should point out that we've already had proxy votes for 79% of the shares in favour of re-electing Stan, what he actually meant was 97%, because Alisher Usmanov had already voted his 30% with Stan's 67%, making a total of 97. So Chip's got a bit mixed up and said 79, but it's notable.
So Chip's got mixed up. It's the story of the AGM over the last 2 years.
That's not the first time that's happened, but it's notable that Alisher Usmanov did vote to put Stan back onto the board. He could have abstained, he could have voted against. Stan was sort of won because he's got 67%, but Alisher Usmanov supported Stan in that resolution and said, yes, I vote you back onto the board, whereas last year Alisher Usmanov did not back any of the resolutions because of the 3 million being taken out. So although that wasn't really noticed by people, and in the end it doesn't actually make a difference because Stan wins any vote anyway with his 67%, but it was something that careful observers would have noticed, that last year Usmanov said, hold on, you took 3 million last year, okay, you're taking it again this year, now you're starting to take the piss a bit. So we're not going to vote with you. If Stan had taken it again this year, then would Usmanov have voted against? Would he have abstained still? I don't know. But the fact is, Stan didn't take it, so Usmanov was back on board. Okay, Stan, you carry on running the company. So a little bit of interest there, and also interesting that enough people put their hands up that Sir Chips had to say, that looks slightly dodgy for Stan here, because what's happened in the past is that Peter Hill-Wood, when he was running it, has just said, some hands against, carried anyway, and he just moves on with the meeting. And it's all been a bit, shambolic, but at least they're sort of taking a bit more notice now.
I'll tell you what, the bit Phil was talking about was absolutely classic. When a couple of years ago, Hill-Wood just completely, I mean, it looked, because that was when the fan share scheme was still up as well, and technically voting rights are a little bit, I think probably people put their hands up who probably shouldn't have, because they don't actually own a full share, but for whatever reason. And it was he just completely ignored the room, and like 80% of the people, 90% had put their hands up, and he just said motion carried anyway. It was just hilarious. I think everyone actually laughed at the end, because it was just like, what's the point? Why do we bother? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is, we know that Stan is going to win the vote anyway, but they are still supposed to run the meeting on a professional basis, which Peter Hill-Wood was by the end was not able to do.
There seemed to be was there a little bit of conjecture at Gazidis' bonus? There seemed to be some sort of they tried to sweep that under the carpet, as well as some sort of spurious increments and whatever, blah blah, be done winning this and that. It's not over over one season, it's over a few seasons. And
yes, exactly.
That's not how my bonuses work. When I get a bonus from work,
lucky old Ivan. Old Ivan, he gets to say, oh well, look, I did some great stuff 3 years ago, can I have a big bonus now? It's a kind of classic answer without being an answer. So Chip says things like, Ivan is doing a first class job in leading the club, and there are many factors involved in his remuneration. Okay, but why has he got a 40% bonus? You haven't actually told us, and we just don't get an answer on that kind of thing. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think it was sort of from a comms perspective. It was done fairly early. It was kind of the first question, along with the property question, which was asked by the AST. So it was done very early, where I think people were still tuning in. They were still finding their feet or finding their seat. It was kind of it was done very quickly. I think
calculated sounds.
Well, yeah, I think if it done halfway.
You're right, Akhil. It was done early on, but the reason for that is because they have to do that before they have the resolutions about the accounts and accepting the accounts. So, so they have to have anything financial. They have to say up front, this is the question, this is our answer. It may be a rubbish answer, but that's all you're going to get. And then they say, right, does everybody accept the accounts? Stan puts his hand up, or not literally, but Stan has already voted with his 67%. Yes, we're accepting the account. So that's the way that they have to run the meeting. But as you say, it did have the effect of, let's get that out of the way, and now we'll talk about how great Arsene is doing.
Yeah. Which then obviously kind of did bring the room together. There was a massive applause for him. He looked a bit awkward when Stan was talking, and I don't think he kind of likes all that. He collected his. You think about it. The man's done 20 years for us, and we've given him a picture frame of himself and a fucking vase. That's what he's got for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know what you prefer a picture of, but maybe himself, maybe David Dean. I don't know, but
I don't know.
I think the other thing which some people have said. That sounded like a speech from Arsene that was saying, I think my time is nearly up, I might be off at the end of the season. Did that sound like it to you, Akhil? It didn't to me, but other people have said that's his leaving speech. That's not his let's go forward together into the future. That's his thanks for the 20 years, and I'm probably going, but I'm not actually saying it yet.
Yeah. I agree with you. I had our friend Tim Payton next to me who was giving me running commentary of the entire AGM from his angle. And as soon as I think Arsene at the end said, and I wish you all the best, Tim straight away was nudging me. I wish you all the best. That to me means he's off, mate. He's off. So that was Tim's view. It was interesting that FK, who's obviously on Twitter. I think he's been on this podcast a few times, maybe in the early days. But he, who's a real staunch Arsene Wenger defender. He completely loves the man. Even he thought that was actually a speech saying, "Oh, potentially this is his last year." So it is interesting that even one of his real big defenders kind of, vocally kind of thought he was off. But for me, nah, not really. I thought he was as focused and as sharp and as he looked as motivated as ever, to be honest. I think there was a few AGMs where, maybe we weren't doing as well, where he kept his head down, his general morale looked down, but I didn't feel that here. And even in the speech, I think there was a little bit of, I'm sorry for the 20 years and all that sort of stuff. I think that was a little bit more just getting us on side. He does often start with a bit of a joke. I remember a few years ago he started with, now I can talk directly to you without the media changing it. And obviously the media were in the back of the room kind of, looking at him thinking, is he serious or not? But that was his joke. That was his way to break the ice. So, no, I genuinely don't think Arsene Wenger's decided what he's going to do yet. So yeah, I wouldn't take too much from that speech.
No, I think most people agree that the offer is on the table, and the board would be more than happy for him to stay. And he may well be holding out for an extra $1 million. He may well just be not totally made his mind up. I don't know, but it didn't seem to me like he was saying, "I've made my mind up to go." Anyway, that wasn't the impression that I got. So it's interesting that Tim Payton, who is very much Arsene out, and FK, as you say, is very much Arsene for the rest of my life and yours. Both seem to think that he was saying I'm off, which I didn't really get at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So the board, I think earlier in this year, it sounded like the board were intimating that they wanted a decision by October, and now it seems like they're happy for him to, as he usually does, make his decision towards the end of the campaign when he feels he has what's going on.
I think the October was Ivan gets these little rushes of blood to his head where he thinks he's actually got some power every now and again, and he says, when it's 6 months away, it seems fairly safe. Yeah, we'll try and get a decision by October. And then, of course, Arsene just thinks, oh, well, I'll decide when I'm ready, mate. And, tough luck on you, Ivan, because I'm not doing what you say.
I actually do. I said it last week on this podcast, but I actually do think he's just waiting to see what happens. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He wants to see the fans' kind of reaction. I honestly think that's just what he's waiting for. But we will see.
Mind you, if he does go, my feeling, and obviously I've got no evidence either way for this, but I would say that he's not going to stay until the end of the season. I would say he's not going to disrupt the campaign. Unlike Man City, announcing Pep coming in February or whenever it was. There's not a successor lined up in that way, or certainly of that calibre. So my gut feel is that Arsene would just carry on to the end of the season. If he hasn't signed a contract, obviously the speculation is going to get bigger and bigger, but I don't think he'd actually announce it before the end of the season anyway.
I think how does that
learn from
impact?
Fergie as well.
Mm.
That's kind of, I know Fergie wasn't out of contract, but Fergie was the same. He didn't want to, ruin that campaign. He knew that could have an effect, and we saw it kind of with certain players like Robin van Persie the season after. So I agree with you. Sorry, Giles.
How do you think that could affect negotiations between? I mean, we don't know either way, but there were rumours that he wants to know what Arsenal's doing before he signs a new deal and whatnot. I mean, could that have an effect on those kind of guys, Ozil and Sanchez?
Well, it could do. I mean, I don't know what their thoughts are, but my gut feel is that Sanchez is more likely to go, and Ozil is more likely to stay. I think Sanchez seems to just gives the impression of having slightly more itchy feet. That if he doesn't think there are going to be trophies coming soon, or if he doesn't think Arsenal are going to be actually challenging for the Champions League and the Premier League, then I think he might want to try his luck somewhere else. So whether that's affected by Arsenal or not, I don't really think it is. I think it's just whether he thinks Arsenal will really be challenging for those two big trophies.
Yeah, I agree. I think this season's key for someone like Sanchez, just to see, do we keep this challenge up? Do we kind of fall away? What do we do? Of course, if you know that the manager's staying, it gives you that clarity over it. There's no unknown that if he does go, who will come in? Will that person, what will their kind of their tactics be? Will they want to move Sanchez back wide where maybe he's enjoying playing? So, there is an unknown there. But I think, ultimately, I think if Arsenal keep up a challenge, Arsenal win one of the big two, or at least compete properly until the end in the big two, perhaps go to the quarters, semis of the Champions League, then I think that might be enough for him to think, actually, this group can win. So, I think he'll see what happens as well.
Yeah, the only thing against a potential move is obviously Sanchez has come from Barcelona. He's not likely to go back there. He's not likely to go to Real Madrid. So there's a very limited pool of clubs that he's going to think, well, they're going to want me, and I'm going to be able to win something there. So, if he's talking winning the Champions League, then he's maybe got Juventus or PSG, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, after the AGM, a few of us, including Phil and myself, were with a few other sort of shareholders, board members of the AST, and a few others talking about actually the big three in terms of contract-wise: Bellerin, Ozil, Sanchez, and that was what kind of came up. That where would Ozil and Sanchez go? Yeah, their teams out there, but they've had their big move. They're not. You can't compare, even though there was a question comparing them to sort of Fabregas, Nasri, Van Persie, and you get the link there. But in terms of those three who we sold, they hadn't had that big sort of move, and that was their big move, whereas these two have. So, Juventus maybe, as you say. I mean, Paris Saint-Germain, are they really gonna? I think, losing sort of Zlatan, and they've lost a few players. I think they've maybe missed their chance a little bit. I'm not sure.
France is still kind of an end of the career destination.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, exactly. So he could go there in his next contract, not necessarily this one. But I don't know. We will see.
Okay, let's move on. What wasn't discussed? I mean, last week we talked about the empties at the Emirates. I mean, again at the Football League Cup. I think, Phil, you said there wasn't that many take-up on the club level or the upper deck.
Were you sitting downstairs last night?
Yeah, I was downstairs.
I was upstairs. Club level, I would say, is definitely not more than 2/3 full. The lower level, obviously, the Reading fans took up most of the clock in. And there were a lot of latecomers, so if you look around after 15 minutes, you think, well, this is really not a very good crowd. By 35 minutes, it was completely different. There was hardly an empty seat in the lower tier from where I was sitting, whereas the upper, probably 10 to 15% were still empty. And that adds up to maybe 4,000, 5,000 if you include all the club level not there as well. And there were several boxes that were empty as well. Obviously, they don't take up much in terms of numbers, but And in fact, Arsenal obviously don't lose any revenue unless they can't sell the box. So from that point of view, it doesn't really matter. But it's just symbolic that companies don't necessarily want to use the box even for a game like this.
And even as part of your club level season ticket, I think you get the cup, the Carling Cup, League Cup, whatever it's called now. You get that included in your club level season ticket, I think. So there's no loss of revenue there either, and people aren't losing any money. It's not. I mean, if you've bought a ticket in the lower upper tier, you physically paid some money for it, which means you're more likely to come. Whereas if it's included, then you might just kind of give it a miss sort of thing. And things like the ticket exchange perhaps don't help in those situations, because when games are going to general sale anyway, there's obviously an opportunity for season ticket holders to move around, to sit with other people, bring other people. So I think those sort of games, I don't think you can do much about, to be honest. £10, £20, it's a fair pricing structure. Yeah. It's one of those things. I'm sure. I know we've got Southampton, which obviously this will come out after the draw, which has just happened. I'm sure that will be a little bit more full, even in the upper tier and even club level.
But taking that on and relating it to the AGM, I mean, home credit system, was that brought up? Or was that not brought up? Or
it was brought up.
Situation?
The AFT asked a question, which we've done for a couple of years, about home credits. We've also raised this at the fans forum on a regular basis, and the answer always seems to be, well, we're looking into what we can do. We realise there's a problem, we're looking into it, but they haven't committed to anything at all. So
as you were.
Yeah, it's they're not as bothered as they should be, because they're still getting the money. Basically, if the game sells out, they get the money. So if 5,000 people don't turn up, well, we'll do something if it doesn't cost us anything to do it, but we're not going to make a big deal out of it.
I mean, that question was kind of used as a opportunity by Ivan to talk about a bit more about the ticket exchange again, which him and whoever else in the club are obviously quite proud of it, and apparently X amount of people that used it. It's probably, Arsenal say, is the most used sort of ticket exchange in the world, as they went as far as saying the world. So it's obviously being used. It's obviously a good thing. It's obviously successful. But now I think it's about taking it the extra step. It's going to be mobile friendly, I think, in the early sort of next year, Q1. Obviously you can kind of take the payment then as well. You don't need to obviously wait to the end of the next season and all that sort of stuff. So there are changes, there are improvements made to it, but I think there needs to be more, whether it's ticket exchange, home credits, or whether it's all of it together, because it's all kind of linked, isn't it, really? It's, home credits, but if you're putting on ticket exchange and it sells, then you still get your credit. It's all linked, really. Safe standing was an interesting one. Yeah. Safe standing, because that was my question. So that's why I bring it up, because I remember that one. And it's I think the Celtic example has been the one that's been in the media for the last few months. It's been the one that the fans have been talking about. It's the one we compared to. Well, it's going in Celtic. It's going well in Celtic. Or it's being trialled in Celtic. What about England, sort of thing? And I think Arsenal did send someone to Celtic as well. So, but
they did, I think a lot of the Premier League clubs sent someone to have a look. But as Ivan likes to point out, the law in Scotland is different. The law in Scotland allows them to do it if they want to. So Celtic have started trialling it. So it does require a change in the law and obviously the FA and Premier League regulations as well. So, fair enough for Ivan to point that out. But the question we keep asking them is, do you support it? And we don't get a straight answer on that. They just say, well, it's not really up to us, it's up to the authorities. Yeah, okay, but do you support it? No answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's up to the authorities. But if no one's going to the authorities and asking them,
if it's not
safe standing, then they're not going to come out randomly and one day just say, hey, you know what would be a great idea, safe standing. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a sort of who moves first sort of thing, where I think there's not much really. In truth, I don't think there's much happening, really. But
Can you guys try and clear the air about one question? And it's been in my kind of personal WhatsApp group with a few other guys, and it was Glyn Taylor's North Korea question. I mean, where did that come from? I mean, and what was he trying to get at by throwing that bombshell out there, that grenade?
Well, this was to do with the banners being confiscated at the Man City game. So, as you probably know, Giles and Akhil, I'm sure you know, some anti-Arsene banners, although not in offensive language or anything, were confiscated from Arsenal fans at the Man City away game. Mm-hmm. Now, Man City, as far as I know, have made no comment on it. The question to Ivan and the board was, Arsenal stewards were there. Why were Arsenal stewards confiscating things from Arsenal fans at an away game? What right have they got to do that? And Ivan's answer was, Arsenal stewards didn't confiscate anything. They inspected the banners, but they didn't confiscate them. Now, people are saying, well, that's not what happened. There is video evidence to show that that's not what happened. If you read Kevin Witcher's piece
Gooner.
on the online Gooner about the AGM, Kevin actually went and asked Ivan afterwards, and Ivan was not best pleased that the subject had been brought up, but he stuck to his story about the Arsenal stewards didn't confiscate anything, and he said he's quite happy to have a meeting with those who were affected by it. So that may be a developing story. We'll have to see what happens with that. But I don't know whether it was Kevin's words or Glyn's words, which were actually on the question. The question was in Glyn's name, but I don't know who actually threw the North Korea reference in there. But that did appear to irritate Ivan a bit. He likes to think that his public image is slightly better than Kim Jong Un or whoever it is in North Korea these days. So he wasn't best pleased. The subject was brought up, but he has said he'll have a meeting about it. So we'll see what happens there.
Last but not least, Phil, I heard that you got loads of autographs, or Arsene Wenger autographs at the end. You were like a little fanboy. Can you clear the air on that? Because that's the rumour that's going around, Phil. Like, look, Arsene, my leather pants.
As Shaggy once said, it wasn't me who told anyone, by the way.
Yeah, all that happened was that the club generously gave us a sort of thick booklet with all Ivan's carefully prepared slides of how well the commercial department are doing and how much money they're raising and how great everything is, which is kind of like North Korea if you think about it. But he gave this book out. He then talked through all the slides as well. Last year, actually, we got a nice chunky silver keyring as a gift when we turned up. This year, we just got a book of graphs. So some people had not bothered opening these, so I just collected 3 of them up that were unused and unopened off the seats at the end, and waited in the queue with Akhil there to just get Arsene to sign them, so I could dish them out to a couple of people on Twitter, which I've done. So my generous nature there, Giles, is what I think you're referring to. Akhil, on the other hand, just went and got yet another selfie with Arsene, which he must have a collection of about 500 on his wall.
Well, no.
Bedroom wall, isn't it?
I want, last year, I'm sure obviously people know, but when I got married last year, the club organised a wedding card which Arsene kindly signed. There was a picture of Ivan and Arsene holding the card. I just wanted to thank him personally for it, and there was an opportunity there when Mark Gonella said, "Do you want me to take a picture?" I did. It wasn't a selfie actually.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a selfie because Mark did it, but it must have been embarrassing for you, Akhil, that Arsene couldn't remember who the hell you were.
Well, he did, because he sort of remembered signing the card and asked me how married life was and if I'm happy, so I think he did. I think Arsene regrets not coming to the wedding, actually.
You shouldn't bring up weddings and marriage with Arsene.
Yeah,
I thought of that. The mood these days.
I thought of that. He handled it quite well.
Good stuff. All right, lads, thanks for coming on and breaking down what happened in the AGM meeting. I want to thank Phil. Thank you very much. So I know it's very rare that you come on, but thank you all the same for coming on. And of course, Akhil, as usual, we'll see you again soon, won't we? You going to you going up to Sunderland this weekend?
Yep.
Good stuff. All right.
It's a long way.
Good stuff. That's been an Arsenal podcast. Actually, it's not an Arsenal podcast. Well, it is an Arsenal-related podcast. It's the Gooner Ramble podcast. I've been your host, Giles. Thanks for listening.
Up the Arsenal.
This podcast is sponsored by www.gambleriskfree.com, teaching you how to make guaranteed profit from bookies. Any free bet you get teaches you how to turn it into real withdrawable cash. They also find free bets for you so you don't have to do any work. Take a look at their website and enter the promo code Gooner Ramble when joining. gambleriskfree.com.